Good evening, good people. It is a privilege for me to be standing here this evening, and I am excited to share some of the nonsense I made in my finances as a young man. I trust that I will inspire you to do better with your finances than what I've done in my own life. Investing in your future starts with cultivating the habits from day one. I learned through making my own mistakes in creating financial wealth in my life. On my channel, I speak about genuine wealth. So genuine wealth is not only made up of the abundance of finances, but also the abundance of quality relationships, the abundance of health, that being mental health, spiritual health, and physical health, and the abundance of control over your time, or the abundance of available time in your schedule. Genuine wealth is something that, yes, involves the abundance of finances, but is so much more. This evening, though, I want to talk to you about the habits that we have in creating wealth financially in our lives. It starts with, like I said, creating the habits. The best habits, or the habits that I wish everybody would cultivate in their financial habits, is first to understand we need to learn before we earn. So we need to learn the correct skills. We need to learn the correct habits. We need to learn, and then we start earning. The second habit, obviously, is to earn and to maximize our earnings. So we need to learn, then we earn, then we invest, and then we repeat that process over and over again. So those are the 4 habits that I'll be repeating this evening. Learn, earn, invest, repeat. Okay. To be able to invest, you obviously need to have positive cash flow. So we'll talk a little bit more about that later. Let me tell you about my story to create some context about where I'm coming from and why I started my YouTube channel. I grew up in a fairly average middle-class home in the East Rand in a small town called Nigel. Some of you might know it, some of you might never have heard of it. But it is a small mining town, nothing much happens there. In the evenings they roll up the streets and close down the robots. You'll often see children hanging around the robots just to have a bit of a disco. Some of you might not even know what a disco is, but anyways. So I grew up in a small town, and I grew up in an Afrikaans middle-class home where I learned a lot about life, relationships, integrity, and trust. But financial well-being and financial management was not something that was discussed on a regular basis. In fact, my parents told me, don't you worry about it, you're a child, we're the parents, we'll worry about the finances, right? Has anybody heard that in the past? Sure. So I believe that we should teach our children about managing finances. And learning them money is one bad habit that we teach our children. So I grew up knowing that I can go to my parents to loan money without any consequences. Obviously, sometimes they'll ask me to give that money back, but often not. So what also would happen then, once I got to varsity, I had the privilege of having a bursary from the South African National Defence Force. And as a student earning an income, earning a salary, I was seen as the man, because which other students earn an income, right? But I compared myself to my peers. So looking at my peers, they had cars that their parents bought them. So I wanted a car, but I was fending for myself, so I had to pay for it myself. So I took out a personal loan to buy a car. And from there on, the debt just started snowballing and snowballing and snowballing. And the first lesson I learned only 4 years ago was that debt, the burden of debt, will eventually crush you. So when we make debt, we need to understand why we make debt and what we do with that debt, and hopefully buy assets with the debt that we do make. Fast forward a whole lot of years. Towards the end of 2018, my life kind of fell apart. I owned a fairly big house in Swartkop in Centurion, and my wife and daughter, or ex-wife and daughter, moved out of the house, and I am getting divorced. I have this big house with debt coming out of my ears, and I don't know what I'm doing. I'm buying food with my credit card just to survive on a monthly basis. A couple of months after my divorce started, I decided, no, it's time that I make a difference in my finances. So I made another bad decision and volunteered myself for debt review. Now, why do I say this is a bad decision? I say this is a bad decision because you're still not taking control of your finances. You're giving someone else the responsibility of your finances. So responsibility is another big thing. Extreme ownership is the name of a book that I read in the last 4 years that made a massive difference in the way I approach my life, in the way I approach my relationships, the way I approach my work, and the way I approach my finances. You have to take responsibility for everything in your life. Now, you might have heard it said that with great power comes great responsibility. I want to flip the coin on that. With great responsibility comes great power. If you can take responsibility for everything, you create power for yourself to make a change. If you give the responsibility to someone else, then you are not in control of making the change. So that's another thing that I learned. Fast forward a couple of years, I stand in front of you here today, 4 years later, financially free. Now, I'm not a millionaire yet. I'm not debt-free yet. And I'm not financially independent yet. But I am in control of my cash flow. So if you want to be able to be in control of your finances, you need to take responsibility for that. There are only six basic words that we need to learn and master if we want to be able to master our finances. These 6 words are income, so maximize your income. Expenses, minimize your expenses. Assets are things that bring money into your life. Liabilities are the things that make money flow out of your life. And then lastly, the last 2 is cash flow. So 6 words. You need to be able to manage your cash flow with the income you get by minimizing your expenses and creating a surplus between your expenses and your income. Then you want to build assets, and you do that by investing. Who can tell me what is the number one asset to invest with in the world today? Property is a good investment, but that's not the best one. Your mind is the best asset you could ever invest in. Your self-development comes first. So like I said earlier, the 4 habits we want to do is to learn, earn, invest, repeat. The most valuable thing you can do is to learn the skills and the knowledge and develop your mindset towards owning yourself and taking responsibility for what you want to achieve in life. So you are your first investment. Training yourself, getting the education, reading the books, speaking to people that are in the know. A book that I want everybody to go out and read is a book called The Richest Man in Babylon. The Richest Man in Babylon talks about the seven cures. Almost there. Speaks about the 7 cures for a lean purse. And also speaks about the 5 laws of gold. And the predominant theme throughout this book is that you need to spend less than you earn. Or, like MG and I was talking about the other day, stop spending more than you earn. Because the banks, the shops, all of the credit card applications, all of these people will keep on phoning you to say, you need this to be able to live a good life. We need to be cognizant of the fact that they are also trying to make money. And we need to control our expenses by taking responsibility for the credit that we do take. Making debt for buying luxuries like an expensive car, an expensive watch, homes that we cannot afford are not things that we should be making debt for. If you make debt, we need to be sure that we get more return on that debt than what we pay for it. And that's a hard lesson that I learned. In the last 4 years, I've been able to move from I was in the red by about 7,000 to 10,000 Rand every month. And I am today standing here flipping that coin the other way around, being financially free. So, the 4 habits that we need to cultivate is to learn and understand that we need to learn before we earn. We also need to maximize our earning capacity. So the self-development is something that we need to continuously do. Then in the book, The Richest Man in Babylon, the 5 laws refers to spending less than you earn, number 1. Number 2, putting your money to work. In other words, employing your money to work for you. so that your money can continuously work whether you sleep, play, or work. The third law speaks towards finding counsel with people who are wise in the handling of money. Now, I'm not saying speak to Louisa necessarily, but Louisa and I have an understanding. But the fact of the matter is that you need to find counsel from people who know how the financial market works and people who know how to handle the money. So we might not necessarily speak to a financial advisor in particular, but find someone who knows how to create income and how to manage that income. So investing in yourself and investing in your future means getting counsel from people that know how to handle money. Speak to financial experts if you want to buy something in the market. How do you know if you have a good financial advisor? Yes, Werner? You can ask Louisa. Good answer, you get 10 points. R50 in jou Absa spaarrekening. No. If you want to judge whether you have a good financial advisor or not, look for a person with a teacher's heart. If the financial advisor you are currently speaking to makes you feel like they're selling you a product on a continuous basis, then reconsider the financial advisor you're speaking to. You want to speak to people who are willing to teach you the things that they've learned. And go check out my YouTube channel.